Good evening, everybody. I am coming in the last couple of minutes for my usual 1 hour window, so I am mildly pleased with myself. Um, so we've got a few things to go through before I start up the game. I've noticed a bad habit of tabbing out of the game and forgetting to close it out. So I think I've got like 8 hours in the menu now that have nothing to do with me actually playing the game. But that's fine. I'm pretty sure the hours played is not going to be moving the needle on people's reception for this game. I have a little bit. Sorry, I am a mess of chords right now, and I'd really rather not roll over a couple of my chargers. So just one moment, please. Okay, I think we're good. So I was very happy. I actually see here, K Money has a bit cheer on my activity feed, so that gives me two reasons um, to mention him. I really appreciated a couple of the points that K Money 38,000 made in the previous stream. He pointed me towards a game developer's channel, and they seem to have this really nice combination of a an obvious capacity for game development. Like they've done something with that I for lack of a better term, like it has this external validation um in terms of they're maybe not like legendary sales, but they've consistently worked on things that people seem to have enjoyed, and they were reviewed well. And they also have a clear understanding of some of the basics, as you might expect any professional to have, although this isn't necessarily true all the time, I should say. But I can make that point differently or at another time. And one of the things, this is such a minor point to bring up, but I think one of the things that I really appreciated about it is that I will hear a lot of people use this analogy of local and global maxima or minima or optima, um, and they will. It's like really obvious in certain cases where people get it and they're drawing on their own understanding, and where some people are quoting something that sounded really smart at the time, but it's clear that the seeds weren't quite planted deep enough. Now, having said that, I can broadly describe this reasonably well. So the usual analogy that is drawn here would be to think of sort of hills and valleys. And so you can see the valleys as low values. And in some cases, so the reason why I said optima is that you sometimes your optimal value is the smallest, and sometimes it's the highest. So for instance, if you're running a business and you're thinking about costs, you do not want a formula that is going to maximize your costs. You want a formula that's going to minimize your costs while still meeting certain properties. Um, on the other hand, if you had some quantification of fun, chances are if you're making a game, you're going to want more fun, or alternatively more money. And of course, the reason we want our games to be more fun is so they make more money. But that's what you get when you have an economist giving you the analogy. But in any case, you can see in a two-dimensional shape, right? If you just have a parabola, right, an upside down U-looking thing, and you want to hit the peak, you kind of go at that hump, and there's a formula that you can apply to find out where that hump is, or the peak of it is. And likewise, if you want to find that minimum, you have this U-shaped thing, and you want to be right in the bottle of the U. This one's a little bit easier to explain because you can kind of imagine dropping a marble in that, and the marble's just going to find that lowest point naturally if you give it enough time to just sort of settle down. And then again, you can extend this out however you want. You can do it 3 dimensions. That's where we get the hills and the valleys. And the idea here is that if you consider the surface to be sort of your problem space, and you have lots of different decisions in terms of where you go, right? We'll maybe think of this in 2 dimensions. So I can change 2 things about my problem, and I'm moving left or right, or I'm moving forward or backward. And some of those choices are going to lead me to higher or lower places. And we all have different ways of sort of searching through something like that. And this is something that's true for programming, which is very often why you will hear, or mathematics in general, but programming, mathematics, data science, whatever you want to call it, what you will frequently run into is you'll have something that works generally quite well, but it runs into the challenge where you might be looking for the absolute peak or the lowest valley out of all of the possibilities. And the algorithm that you're using does a very good job of finding the local optima. So if it finds itself in a little valley, not necessarily the deepest valley, but it finds itself in a valley, it's going to really focus on finding the bottom of that, and it's going to stop searching for the deepest one. And then there's an equivalent for the peaks. And this is a reasonably well-known problem. It depends kind of on how you're approaching it, how you solve it. But you can kind of see how this maps reasonably well to a common sense understanding of the world that we live and operate in. You can very often find that you'll spend a lot of time looking for a particular solution, and you develop sort of this mental rut or this kind of groove, and so you keep pursuing this problem along a set of parameters or along sort of a certain path that maybe has shown you promise in the past, but it's not necessarily bearing the same kind of fruit that you saw before. And then very often what we hope for, and sometimes we want to be that person, sometimes we're content to just have someone point it out. But, you talk to a friend, or you go to the shower or something like that, you have that absolute stroke of genius that, just completely blows open the problem in a way you never thought possible before. And in that case, right, this is the analogy of sort of being pushed out of that optimizing for where you currently are, and instead focusing on the big picture and getting out of it. So it's one of those nice ones where, I realize it's very common for people to talk about mathematics, and you'll usually hear something along the lines of, when are we ever going to use this? Or my particular favorite, when it was like, well, they never taught me how to do taxes, but I sure am glad I learned the Pythagorean theorem. And of course, I was in school, and I remember when they went over taxes with us, and I didn't think of myself as much of a math person, but I've definitely appreciated that learning a few basic things in math have allowed me to develop a set of skills that apply just as well to taxes as many other things. So, I accept to a certain extent that I'm going to have to meet people where they are. And in this case, it means that people will consider this one of the rare exceptions where mathematics aligns with common sense. Although I will say there's a lot of stuff that I like the most in math that is the opposite of common sense. All right, let's hop into Tyranny. As fun as that was to do a digression, I just didn't want the big brassy opening blasting me out as I ran through it. But anyways, I really appreciated K Money's the video. Well, it's not his video, but appreciated the video that he shared. And it also just took me down a nice little path. I'd obviously already been doing some research in terms of some of the older RPGs. I got to watch him play something, which was the first I'd ever seen of it. And I've been looking at a few of the old CRPGs. So I think it's all stuff that I've talked about on the stream before. So these would be Fallout, Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate, Planescape Torment, Pillars of Eternity, Rogue Trader. I know there's a couple Pathfinder games. I don't know if they're all by Owlcat or not. And then the Larian games. Excuse me. Divinity Original Sin, Divinity Original Sin 2, Baldur's Gate 3. I'm sure there are others that I'm forgetting. I know very commonly people will talk about Neverwinter Nights in this context as well. And I suppose from there it would also be fair to mention Dragon Age, because Dragon Age isn't so completely separated from Baldur's Gate, at least at the server. I've never played it. Well, sorry, I've played like a little bit of the introduction, but it definitely feels very Baldur's Gate when I play it. And I appreciate looking at some of the modern ones. It doesn't seem to be like that. But yeah, I don't know. I was intrigued. Anyways, yeah, I've been thinking a bit, mostly just because of Tyranny. I've been thinking a bit of this style of game and how I can... Part of what I want to do is just do the division between the old games, which will have some sharp corners that I run into, and then some of the, the newer forms, and see how well they've gone in. Because I do feel that this is a style of game, and I think Larry and I'd sort of hold up as someone pushing back against that tendency. But if you'll recall when I played the game Old World, I'll actually just load into the Spire library so we can spare ourselves the brass. Well, there'll still be brass, just different. But yeah, so this idea of Old World, there was this nice essay that Soren Johnson wrote, kind of talking about the inheritance of the... Sorry, I just horrified someone with images. Just a minute. I sent someone a photo saying, so one of my favorite AI prompts is to basically take anything nice and say, what if it had human teeth? And inevitably, it's just the most horrifying image you can imagine. So I said, what if a baby had human teeth? And like on that one, is like, wait, but babies do have, well, like, I mean, newborns don't, but like, obviously kids have teeth. But of course, the trick on this one is that it's a full-on adult set of like, talk show host or politician who's really happy to be back in Des Moines, kind of smile. And yeah, it looks absolutely horrifying. But I've outdone myself on this one, I feel, where I asked, what if human teeth had human teeth? So they're teeth with basically smiles on them. Okay, anyways. So Soren Johnson wrote this pretty interesting essay, and I believe he gave a GDC talk about this. But it's essentially the idea of sort of the inheritance of the game that you're working with, and sort of this idea that for some games and genres, there are these things that you just take for granted, but they don't actually necessarily have all that great of a foundation. It's more just someone decided to do this at some point, and it stuck. So Dota 2 is a great example of this. He actually takes the idea of killing your own creeps as an example and sort of points out how League of Legends felt justified in getting rid of this idea because it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. I sort of disagree with the idea that it doesn't make sense. I think the idea of denying your enemy a resource is fine and consistent. But I also see the point where he says it's like, you're playing a game where you kill your own troops. Like, what is this? That doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I can completely see the logic behind that objection. And of course, that was just a function of the fact that it's a mod in Warcraft 3. So, the fact that Blizzard decided at some point in Warcraft 3 to enable that behavior, and of course the constraints that the modders for Defense of the Ancients, the constraints they were facing are the reasons for a lot of potentially nonsensical behavior in Dota 2. And of course, once upon a time, when Valve was kind of trying to convince the community to move in to their version of the MOBA, there was this promise of parity with the Warcraft 3 mod. And obviously there would be sort of this there was a bit of I can actually remember the lag between actually achieving parity, because I seem to remember there was Earth Spirit, which took a long time. And I actually also remember, like, when Earth Spirit came in, it was completely broken. Like, it was not an easy character to play, but if you could manage it, it was a completely preposterous character. But I mean, this is true for anything, really. But yeah, anyway, so I don't know, there's a few examples that you can draw from. I would probably be better to just get on with the game and let you read the essay on his own. But what I think is particularly useful out of that one is, when I think of a lot of these games, I think Fallout doesn't have, or sorry, I believe Fallout does have a turn-based system, but I believe most of these other games do have a real-time system, one that I've never actually been able to make a lot of sense out of, to be completely fair. I just don't know. I don't know why they decided that was the best way to do combat. But even on these modern takes, it very often seems to be that they want to keep that real-time element, even potentially to the detriment of the game. In my view, at least. I realize that I'm kind of an outlier in the fact that I'm playing these, but they're not necessarily my favorite type. I'm warming to them, let's say. But yeah, it seems that that's something that sort of stayed with the genre longer than it needed to, and much like Old World sort of asks some questions about what's necessary to make a good 4X game. I think some of the Larian CRPGs. Sorry, I have some chocolate and I want chocolate. So, but it's like super dark chocolate. So, well, not super dark. It's darker than what you'd normally get. Good with coffee. Shouldn't have done this mid-sentence, though. I just want to do it while my coffee's hot. Okay, as lovely as that was, I'll wait till I'm in the game. But yeah, this is a very extended way of making this point, but it's one of the things that I really appreciate about Larian's approach. It's not necessarily that I think they're the peak. I realize it's very easy to say how good Larian stuff is now. I mean, coming off of Baldur's Gate 3, such a massive success, it's kind of hard to deny them the success that they've had. But definitely Divinity Original Sin. I've seen not exactly review. They're like somewhere between review and walkthrough, where basically they say, don't be afraid to completely reset your campaign. Trial and error is how you learn this. And to my understanding, Divinity Original Sin is not a small game. So the idea of like playing to a point where you can't progress and you just have to start over and make a new character based off of the lessons you learned. The roguelike approach to to huge CRPGs, that really does not strike me as conducive to, mental harmony, let's say. So again, I have stuff I can complain about, but the point that I'd like to focus on it really is just to say that there seem to be a lot of the features that you can very easily identify with. I played insert RPG here. It really meant a lot to me, and I'd like to take it in direction X. And direction X definitely resembles those influences while still allowing itself to become its own thing and maybe ask a couple of questions about why we did things a certain way. And then the nice end result is we wind up with something that may be a new paradigm, right? So not that I want to suggest that the Larian games are like a new paradigm, but to me, I think the way that the combat works is, I think, a little more consistent with the game. Now I just see a Discord message here. All right, sorry about that. Just wanted to make sure that if I saw a message notification that it got handled. All right, finally, extinguishing the flames. Graven Ash wants you to finish what was started during Kairos' conquest of the Tears and destroy the burning library once and for all, denying the Scarlet Chorus the library's forbidden knowledge. Travel to Effigy. Merrick leads a group of disfavored Oathbound in the burning library and may be able to help you. Though Ash lost contact with him in recent weeks, travel to Merrick's last known location at Effigy and gain his assistance if possible. And I believe we are already researching at the... That's the forge. Yes. It will take you 1 day, 16 hours to complete your journey from Mountain Spire, Vendrian's Well, to Effigy. Encounter in the Blade Grave. An abrupt storm drives you into the shelter of a public house built under a colossal stone overhang. Travelers from across the tiers share the space with you, warily eyeing one another in near silence until the thin stew and thinner ale loosen the lips of the gathered. A wiry woman with midnight skin sets a large gourd on a stone near the back of the cave. She challenges you to a game of daggers, in which players compete to throw identical knives at a target. The person who hits nearest the center in 3 tries wins. The purse, she states, will be 20 copper rings. Play fairly, cheat, or suggest a companion play. That will play fairly. You stand and approach the woman, setting down your own twine-bound rings and challenge. The woman grins, turns to hurl her first knife, beginning the game. She seems quite competent with a hurled blade, but you sink 2 daggers closer to the center of the gourd than her closest. Impressed, she offers you your winnings and purchases your next drink. Going at daggers, so... and everybody is joyful. 20 accuracy when above 75 health. I'll take it. Imperial Copper Ray. And not surprising that the research completed, but I do not believe we can affect this. Now that you've arrived in Effigy, you need to locate and free the captured Oathbound soldier, Merrick. He has knowledge you'll need to destroy the burning library.
Huh.
Fate Finder.
Sorry, I can't.
I'm a little curious about, well, a couple things. First of all, probably should have read those earlier. So I'm slightly curious here with the Fate Finder. So the Fate Finder is a deliverer of final justice in the Great Court of Mortality. This bow seals the fate of anyone it targets, proclaiming the decision of death over life. Opening one of the sacks releases a horrific stench into the air. Peering into it, you can see what remains of rotting fruits and grains.
Will do.
Let's just get the sigils taken care of. So I'm going to make a guess here. Frozen Grasp. 25. Yep. You notice a young woman standing apart from the rest of the sages. She fidgets and twitches, hopping back and forth from foot to foot, murmuring to herself. Even though she seems energetic, her eyes are tired and rheumy, with dark circles underneath them. She leans against the wall, bouncing up and down on the balls of her feet. Looking up mid-twitch, she catches your eye and calls out to you. You there! Yes, you can help me out. I've so much that needs to... Oh, wait. I thought you were someone else, and this is incredibly embarrassing, so never mind, because you're not who I thought you were, and so you can't help me, and it would be a waste for me to ask you everything only to find out you can't help, because I know you can't help me, because you're not the person I was looking for. So thanks for listening, but I need to keep doing my research now, so I'll go over here. She bounces and twitches a few feet away, and leans against the wall again, muttering to herself. As you approach, you see a stern-faced woman having a heated discussion with a frightening young man. She holds a piece of paper in her hand and punctuates every few words with a pointed tap on the sheet. The young man turns bright red and takes 2 shuffling steps backwards, his eyes casting about for help from the group, but no one gathered will meet his gaze. Finally, the woman throws the paper at him and says dismissively, "We're done here." The young woman makes a couple of frantic grabs at the paper before finally securing it, then turns and runs away, tripping as he goes. The woman squeezes her eyes closed, sighs, and puts the palm of her hand against her forehead, working it around in small circles. She takes another deep breath and turns to face you. She gives you a half bow, her face stoic and voice flat. Fatebinder, the last thing I expected here was a representative of the disfavored. My name is Renata. We are not properly prepared to receive you, as we have recently taken a prisoner, and he has proven to be quite the handful. She puts a hand to her head again, as if to emphasize her consternation. And I have the feeling you're probably here to speak of just such matters. Renata looks to where the young sage disappeared behind a building. We are... She pauses and looks up thoughtfully. How do I say this diplomatically? We're rather short-staffed at the moment, and certain aspects of my day-to-day life are more difficult than I would hope. She considers you, her lips pursed. You can see she is choosing her next words carefully. Because you gave us warning, we were able to get a lot of important books and people out before our home was destroyed. For that, I thank you. She sniffs, her eyes briefly looking down. When she looks up again, she is composed, all sense of sentiment gone from her demeanor. And for those of you wondering, conquest decision. During the conquest of the Tears, when it seemed that none of Kairos' forces would find common ground to resolve the siege of the Vellum Citadel, you proclaimed the Edict of Fire, reducing the library to a smoldering ruin. You gave the sages fair warning of the devastation to come, giving many the opportunity to flee with their lives. What business do you have with the sages? I've come in search of someone named Merrick. I have learned that he may be here. Renata smiles and points south towards a house with a sage and a beastman standing in front of it. He's here, all right. He's our captive, and he isn't going anywhere. I would like to talk to your prisoner. Renata folds her arms and looks at you incredulously. Well, considering he was probably sent to finish the job the edict started, which would mean you're probably here to check up on him, why would I ever let you do that? I just want to see him briefly. He might be more inclined to talk to me. Absolutely not. The last thing I need is you two colluding against me. Now, I'm incredibly busy and have work to do, so leave me be. We are not criminals, Sage. Whatever else you might think, we are the ones in the right here, and you are simply an obstruction to be moved aside, by force if need be. She scrutinizes Barrick with a mixed expression. Easy for you to say when you stand as tall as the library stacks. Come down to my level if you want to pick a fight, you great iron spire. Ash has commanded me to speak with Merrick. You are standing in the way of Kairos' forces. And I have a scattered group to collect and lead. Everyone has hardships, and I really don't care to hear about yours. Kairos has done enough damage. I will not allow it to continue while I am here. You can bluster all you want. You will not be speaking to the prisoner. I won't ask you again, Renata. Let me talk to Merrick or pay the price. Renata's eyes narrow. It appears you wish to end this in blood. So be it. You will find the sages aren't so easily silenced. Guards, we're under attack! Alright, so it would be best if I could get Barrick on the Beast Woman, but we're limited in what we can do, so... I'm gonna get the Fatebinder to hit the Beastie.
You got it. Let's do it, you and me.
Ooh, that's more than I was banking on.
Not a problem, boss.
Right. Smashed him! Pieces!
Right. I thought killing claws feed right lands with flesh.
Okay, so I need Lantry to restore himself. Verse is kind of in a bad spot overall, but... Wonder if I can kick her in the head. Okay. Healing for everyone.
Not a problem, boss.
Will do. Oh no. My own strength.
Inconvenient.
Will do. As you
Fire.
command.
Count on it.
I got it.
Alright, Lantry's down. Reverse is not looking great, but I think we can get through it.
Feel my...
So yeah, Verse is not in good shape, but... Frankly, the more it wastes on the Fatebinder and Barrack, the better off I am. So, alright, Verse is down too. I don't think I can kick them in the head fast enough.
Got you.
Okay, good enough.
Will do.
Okay, that was a nice little combo there. I don't know if the Fatebinder's going to make it through, but...
Will do. I will aid you.
It will take more than that to break.
Death, worm.
Cool. Probably not so good for Versus experience, but... The door won't move an inch. It must be barricaded from the other side. What do you want? I've already faced enough torments at the hands of these scholars. The bound prisoner squints up and just licks his dry lips. You're Tunon's Fatebinder, aren't you? I'd recognize you anywhere. But I'm afraid you have me at a disadvantage right now. I'm at your mercy. Kill Merrick. Forget Ash's orders. You're a weakling and don't deserve it. It must be Merrick. Ash has tasked me with destroying the library, so I need your help to get past the chorus. Merrick looks dismayed. So Graven Ash sent someone to finish what I couldn't do. I knew I'd failed my mission, but I didn't know I wasn't going to be given a chance to redeem myself. So be it. There's no point in mourning what I cannot change. As for your problem, I wish I could help you, Fatebinder, but at present I can't even help myself. Merrick looks down at his restraints. What happened to you? My scouts and I were infiltrating the burning library. One of my best, Yelena, must have been working with the Scarlet Chorus. She disappeared, and shortly after, we were hunted down. He sends a bloody gob of spit to the ground. She used her Oathbound connection against us. That's how the Chorus were able to pin down our location. Damn clever. I don't know how many of us were taken, but these sages caught me while I was resting. Suppose I should feel grateful. Now I just wait my execution, unless you're willing to help me. Set me free and we can talk more. That would be a real favor. And if you were worried about the muscle around camp, the rest of my scouts are nearby. They can help us fight off the sage scum. The sages are already dead. You're free. Merrick has been joined by members of his unit, two wary-looking Oathbound with large patches of ashen blood blanketing their armor. They nod to their commander as they approach, a curiously nonchalant reaction to his rescue. Merrick appears to regain some strength at the sight of his men. He beckons vigorously as you approach, a determined expression visible on his face. Thank you for your help, Fatebinder. I will forever be in debt to you for helping me to avoid the shame of a dishonorable death on top of my other failure. I'm afraid I must ask more of you, even after you have already done more for me than I can repay. First, you'll help me. I need to get to the library. I'll tell you everything you need to know. I only ask you do something for me once you make it to this library. Graven Ash tasked me and my group with destroying it. Unfortunately, we were discovered and routed. But I know how to get you there safely. Here, let me mark it on your map, how to bypass all the chorus patrols to get to the library. Once there, you need only deal with the sensor to get inside. Be aware, Fatebinder. One of my soldiers mentioned a large magical barricade deep inside the library. The sensor has her gang searching the entire building for parts of some kind of passcode to get beyond it. If you are going to accomplish your goal, you will need to find the passcode before they do. I wish I had more information for you, but I hope that will help you. He salutes you. Now it would make my request of you. Can you tell me anything about the edict? Unfortunately not. All I know is that it is forbidden lore in the library. All that I know is that all the forbidden lore in the library must be destroyed. Graven Ash believes that destroying the Silent Archive will achieve this. But with the barrier protecting it, no one can get to it. At least, it seems that no one has gotten in yet. Otherwise, the edict would have ended. What is your request? Some of my Oathbound scouts are still missing. 2 are in the burning library, and the third, Yelena, is in the Scarlet Chorus camp. I want to see her properly punished for her betrayal, as much as I want to see the others saved. Tell me about this betrayal. She used her Oathbound connection against us. That's how the Chorus were able to pin down our location. Damn clever. I don't know how many of us were taken, but these sages caught me while I was resting. She must be punished for her betrayal. You mentioned the Oathbound connection. What is that? Because you helped me, I will tell you, but normally this knowledge is not shared outside the disfavored. Before you are truly an Oathbound, you must complete a ritual that connects you to each one of your brothers. Their feelings become yours, their pains are your pains, and their troubles are yours as well. Yelena used that connection to betray us. She must be made to pay for that act. What do you want me to do? I ask of you to find my missing men and return them to me. Yelena must be made to pay for her crimes, and I will not have another of my men lost to her weak will. I'll find your men and return them to you. Thank you, Fatebinder. I am in your debt. I will not hide the fact that without your help I would have failed in my mission. Your name will be praised as long as I can draw breath. I will await your return here. Interesting. So Merrick, an Oathbound Scoutmaster, lost track of his own soldiers in the library, but no mention of the betrayal from the Scarlet Chorus. Enter the ruins of the burning library to destroy the silent archive. I'm just going to have a little more chocolate, so hopefully there's no dialogue. Oh, sorry. Merrick is loyal to the... This is not going to work. Sorry, just 1 minute. Okay. The ties that bind. Merrick is loyal to the Oathbound serving under him. He will not be satisfied until the surviving members of his unit have been returned to him and the betrayer, Yelena, has been put to death. One of Merrick's soldiers betrayed her unit and helped the censor locate them. Merrick wants her dead. Rescue the Oathbound in the burning library. Merrick knows that 2 of his scouts remain in the library ruins. Find them and bring them to safety.
I got it.
So it wouldn't be a terrible idea for me to heal up my people, but... we'll do our best. The sages of the Vellum Citadel publicly swore fealty to Kairos, but from within the safety of their Vellum Citadel, these scholars continued to study and copy forbidden lore, and used magic to repulse any attempts by the disfavored and Scarlet Chorus to claim the Citadel that was promised to the Overlord. In retribution, Kairos pronounced an edict of fire on the Vellum Citadel, turning the home of the School of Ink and Quill into a smoldering ruin now known as the Burning Library. Actually, if it's night... I'm just trying to think. We do have a few bonuses. Yeah, we'll try and push through.
Found something.
The corpses of sages are skewered on these spikes. Their skin has been blackened by the heat of the magma belching from nearby fissures. How happy do you think they're going to be to see me? We don't recognize your authority here, Fatebinder. A twisted man leans over 2 forms on the ground. One, a robed figure covered in bruises. The other, a soldier, horribly burned, lying motionless to the side. The man grunts at you with obvious displeasure. If it isn't the betrayer himself, he spits. If you want anything here, you need to meet with the censor. She's to the east by the ruins entrance. You should go, now. The shelf is well separated from the surrounding area.